Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. All right, guys. Today's date, September 28, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm host the most Will Buchanan on the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we do try to watch our language on this podcast, as well as there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, let's go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, guys, if you are in the path of Hurricane Ian, please be careful. I know for a lot of people, especially in Florida, they are used to this because it's hurricane season, but still, Mother Nature is unfreaking defeated. If you are able to evacuate, please evacuate. If you intend on staying, please bunker down and be safe. But first and foremost, yes, please be safe in Florida. As a person who's experienced hurricanes, it is not fun. Mother Nature, again, is undefeated. But with that being said, it's not much in the middle of the midweek review, but we'll go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, I keep telling you guys, the elections are coming. We're not too far off from November midterms. And with that being said, all of a sudden, we seem to have a little bit of camaraderie, if you will. I am literally talking about the fact that Mitch McConnell has given his support to the electoral bill in response to the January 6th attack that had occurred. Now, if you're probably wondering why Mitch McConnell is supporting this, again, guys, I keep saying this all the time. The fact of the matter is, this is the part where politicians actually do their job because, well, they want to keep their positions. I have said it once, I'll say it again. Being a politician sometimes is more lucrative than being a professional player in any sport. Why? You control the money and you control taxes. But that's just my opinion. But that being said, the bill that they're trying to pass by, guys, is going to be an amenity to the Electoral Count Act of 1887. What usually means in that case is they're going to increase the number of House and Senate members required to raise objections to election results during a joint session of Congress when they are certifying the electoral vote count. That means that one House member and one senator can currently object to currently, and this is the current rule, one House member and one senator can currently object to electoral votes sitting into a vote in Congress. Each chamber rejects the objection, the votes are counted. The additional Senate bill will require the support of 1/5 of each chamber to raise objection. The House bill would raise the threshold even higher to 1/3 of each chamber to force both chambers to vote on whether to throw out a state's electoral results. Now, this is in an effort to boost electoral security because the former failure in chief kept on saying the entire year before his election that had him serve as walking papers was that they're going to basically screw him in the election, which they didn't. The election that he lost to Joe Biden was the fairest and safest election on record, even though Trump, Fox News, and everybody conservative was saying that there's going to be irregularities in the voting system. They couldn't find anything. Even more so that Republicans, after Joe Biden was inaugurated as president in each state, decided to include certain voter suppression laws to make it harder for voters, specifically minorities, to vote. Because again, they dismissed the fact of voting, and that's the reason why the failure in chief was handed his walking papers. Now, why is Mitch McConnell caring? Mitch McConnell cares because, again, he does not want to be seen as the Mitch McConnell of previous years, where he basically says no to everything unless it's something that he wants or special interest groups want, and therefore say yes to it, no problem. This, again, is a midterm election season. His job is on the line. That's why he's very attentive right now. That's why he's very gung-ho about electoral safety, even though if Kentuckians really were paying attention, they would not vote in a guy who would literally vote against their own self-interest. But I digress. But again, it's interesting to see that there is a little bit of bipartisanship, which they keep on saying is going to happen between these two parties, but it really does need to. I mean, for the simple fact of the matter, if I'm being honest here, The Electoral College needs to go away. I have said it before. The Electoral College was really a system that was based on the fact that the population at one time did not equal up to where we can actually do a popular vote. However, it's 2022. We more than likely, because of our population has grown by leaps and bounds since then, should be able to go by a popular vote. Why? Because if you really think about the Electoral College, this is what I stand and say about the Electoral College and why it makes certain states more valuable than other states. For example, California, Texas, Florida, New York, Michigan, Iowa, just a few, all have enormous electoral vote counts. Even Ohio, again, a big electoral vote count. What does that mean? Well, if you're paying attention to where the politicians go during their campaigns, they go to battleground states. They go to the states with the most votes. They go to the states with the most electoral count votes because 9 times out of 10, the numbers in polls show that they're in their favor or they're trying to curry more favor. But I mean, granted, you don't expect a politician to visit all 50 states. You don't expect that. But they are going to hit the states that's going to matter because that's what most campaign strategies would always say. You want to hit the states that are going to get you the most votes to get you into whatever seat or office you're trying to run to. That's why I hate the Electoral College so much. Because imagine if we did remove the Electoral College, if we abolished it, if we just went by the popular vote, if we went by that, imagine it would change landscape. All of a sudden, forget campaigns. I mean, yeah, you can go to every state and campaign, but now it's the popular vote. Politicians that are actually going to a certain vote to create their favor will now be able to speak to all states. And the simple fact of the matter is, it takes away what some people say. Well, my vote doesn't count because if I vote a Democrat in a state that's completely conservative, the electoral college count is going to go conservative, which to a certain point I can't understand. I can understand that. It does dismay some voters if you voted in a midterm election, but your state's electoral vote count went conservative. However, in the midterms, it's not going to be the case, as that's going to go by popularity. But I understand what they're saying in the presidential election, that we shouldn't really depend on electoral vote count because our population has increased. But the one thing that conservatives love to say, well, we went by the popular count. That means that California could vote in the new president by themselves. This is why I say Google's important, because California as a whole, even if everybody in California voted, the entire population of California voted, it doesn't mean that they can decide the outcome if every other state voted against it. That was the reasoning of some people when we sit there and say, get rid of the electoral college. I think it needs to be gone. But I also think that lobbying needs to be gone. I think that Citizens United needs to be overturned. I think that every politician should not have abilities to stock markets, should not have ability to enhance their portfolios, no matter how many third parties or mutual groups they go through. And at the same time, I also believe that the Senate and the House should have consecutive term limits put on. It should be the same as the president. It should be that you only can serve 2 consecutive term limits, and then you got to sit out 1. That's just me, because I think that if we're going to make government work, then government should have accountability. But I digress. But speaking of the government, though, guys, again, you guys wouldn't know as Americans are, I should say some Americans are bracing for Hurricane Ian in the South, and of course, not only in Florida, but also in Texas and other southern states as well, that Congress is in the middle of basically averting a shutdown again. How many times have we heard that? Congress always has to avert a shutdown. Well, as the bill is being talked about to do a stopgap measure, there was one particular part of that bill which is getting a lot of attention, and it should, because Manchin of all people wanted in that particular stopgap measure to fund Congress, or I should say, kicking the can down the road for a while. He was actually wanting to have an amendment to have a pipeline addition put in to that bill, which was causing a whole lot of issues, because last time we heard about a pipeline, they were trying to tell us the bullshit lie about a pipeline coming from Canada down to the Americas and providing thousands of jobs when they would only provide less than 30. And the oil would not go to the US, the oil would actually go to Canada. So it is amazing that every time a pipeline is introduced, that as conservatives, nature conservatives, and Democrats all seem to be like, why do we need it? We don't need it. Well, again, Manchin for now has actually abandoned that push for speeding up permitting process for energy projects. That's the reason why, unless this vote, as you can see at the bottom, the fiscal year for Congress ends on midnight on Friday. So unless we actually get a vote in, which should be happening between now and Thursday, yes, the government could be shut down again. Hopefully, it will not. But I find it interesting that Joe Manchin again is pushing for energy projects permitting process. What else permitting process, you might ask? Drilling, pipelines, all And here's the thing. It never ceased to amaze me how Manchin, again, the man to me who literally and figuratively is the albatross to President Biden's progressive agenda. Because understand, Joe Biden did go progressive at the beginning of his term. Now he's went back to his moderate Democrat status. He's middle of the road, but he really leans conservative now. He's always been conservative, to be honest with you. But you guys remember Joe Manchin, along with Kristen Sinema, the two senators, but mostly Manchin, who was the albatrosses to Joe Biden's progressive agenda. He shot down the Voting Rights Act. He shot down the John Lewis Act. He shot down police reform, even though technically it was Tim Scott, the only black guy of a conservative group, to actually get that bill killed. He actually voted against codifying Roe versus Wade. That's right, ladies. Joe Manchin is against your right to control your own bodies without any government oversight. That's him. But yet he's pushing for permits for drilling, offshore drilling. He is pushing permits for drilling in new farmed areas. Why? Because he's a walking conflict of interest. I have always said that about Senator Joe Manchin. He is a walking conflict of interest. He hails from West Virginia, which is a coal mining state, which again, he sits on a board that is for a coal mining company in said state. And yet, whenever energy things are brought up, everything like the new Green Bill by any chance, when it was investing in wind and solar and turbines and almost looking at geothermal energy, Joe shot that down. Why? Oh, well, I was worried about inflation. Well, we can't be adding to the bill. Yes, because it didn't include coal. And again, this is the one thing that always what Trump was really good at. We'll have clean coal. It's gonna work. First and foremost, coal is dirty. There's nothing clean about it. You actually spend more money trying to make a cleaner burning version of coal than you do with the current with the current version right now. It's the reason why it's not profitable. You'll spend more, make less. You'll get less on the profit side. But tell that to Joe. Joe, again, is a walking conflict of interest and trying to throw in on a stopgap measure to make sure that those permits got approved so his buddies who lobbied for him will be able to drill with no issue. I'm trying to figure out for the longest time, how is this not a conflict of interest? But again, it's amazing that we have a stopgap measure that we have a stopgap, or otherwise we'll have a government shutdown come midnight Friday, while a hurricane is bearing down on us, while you still have politicians trying to do their best to do their job that they haven't done all year. Only in America. But moving right along, guys, I keep on telling you this about strikes and setups. We have seen this, guys, with airlines. We saw it 2 weeks ago with the train situation, with the train workers, and how if that went into effect, it would have derailed a lot of supply chains, which thankfully they were able to avert that, and the strike never happened. But strikes have happened everywhere else. Educators, airline pilots, nurses, and now airline workers. Now you're probably thinking, what do you mean by airline workers? I am talking about the people that work in the food stores, the clothing areas. You've all been to airports. You know they have depending on which airport you're in, it could be the size of a small strip mall. It could be a few stores. It could just be a McDonald's. But those airport workers, they come in, they get your food, or you pay for your stuff. Those workers are what I'm talking about. Well, unfortunately, in actual San Francisco, that strike is actually occurring. I am talking about the workers who are members of the United Hire Local Bay 2, which is which is in the San Francisco International Airport, with 15,000 members. Out of those 15,000 members, 1,000 members are on strike. Which again, I keep saying this. The reason why, and with those, I'm sorry, let me start over. With those 1,000 workers that went on strike, it shut down almost all of the San Francisco International Airport's food and beverage outlets. And why, you might ask? The same story that's being said everywhere else. Workers are tired of jobs that are not enough to live on, and we're prepared to strike for as long as it takes to win better wages and affordable health care. That's it. And I keep saying this all the time. I say this all the time, that the reason why people are striking, the reason why people are literally not going to jobs is the fact that they cannot, above all else, survive on a single job. And it is amazing to me how corporate America has, even though they keep saying that they understand the workers' plight, you really don't. Because you understand that you need to make a profit, and that profit is by any means necessary. Keep in mind, the majority of workers in San Francisco make $17.05 an hour. Now, of course, that is the same city. That actually raised their minimum wage slightly higher, but that's the rate that they're actually getting paid at the airport. And I say this, so the fact of the matter is that it's basically, even though they are union, that's their standard contract. But as you can see, things are subject to change. This is the reason why I keep saying, above all else, you want to stop inflation? Pay people. You want to stop strikes? Pay people. You want to stop whatever's coming down the line? It's easily put. Pay people. And it mystifies me. It mystifies me how companies are seeing this. Oh, well, I can't pay my workers more. And I don't feel sorry for you businesses. You know why I don't feel sorry for businesses? I'm gonna tell you why I don't feel sorry for businesses. You guys had a program, albeit to me, it was from beginning to end, it was a bonfire. And I'm talking about the PPP program, Paycheck Protection Program that was designed for small businesses to keep their companies afloat while taking out a small loan. And that loan was intended to keep its people paid on payroll so folks are not hungry, without amenities, without cars or homes or things of that nature. That's what it was designed for. But we all know that the program itself was flawed because, number one, even if you didn't have a business, you could apply and still get a loan. Some people got more than one. Some people got anywhere from $1,000. Some people got up to millions. But the thing about the PPP loan is a lot of those loans got forgiven. A lot from companies. And of course, you can go on the ProPublica America website and you could actually see which loans were forgiven. You'll see a big number of these corporations who could have taken out the loan or who could have went to a bank, got a traditional loan, but went the PPP route, took out the loan, got forgiven, which means they don't got to pay that back. Meanwhile, these are the same businesses that are going to be complaining, oh, well, we can't pay individuals more. I don't feel bad for you. I don't. Businesses, if you are a business that takes on employees, you should be able to pay for them. And at the same time, pay them a living wage. I have said this multiple times, guys, that we should not be in 2022 and the minimum wage is still $7.29. That's below poverty. Below. I don't even know that's like subterranean level low. If we actually take into account productivity and GDP in the United States, minimum wage should really be anywhere between $24 to $26 an hour. $24 to $26 an hour? Yes, the minimum wage should be. Do you even want to imagine that your own job right now? Because a lot of people sit there and say, well, if you're flipping burgers, you should be making $24 an hour. That kind of tells me that you're getting paid less than $24 an hour. Or you don't consider any other job outside of what you're doing to be either equal or higher than you, but you consider it to be below you. And that's the thing that I don't understand is that, number one, businesses don't pay people. And number two, at first, and I say at first, The general consensus at the time was that we should be paying these burger flippers because that's what everybody goes to. They go to the whole fast food thing. Teenagers can do that job. They should be able to find better jobs. Why do you think you have longer wait times at fast food joints now? Because a lot of those people got told, oh, you should find a better job. Guess what? They did. And now you're at McDonald's waiting 30 minutes to place an order because McDonald's can't keep anybody on staff. Why? Because McDonald's, or I should say McGuire Enterprises, doesn't pay their workers. There's a reason why Chick-fil-A's lines move smooth and why McDonald's backs up. Chick-fil-A figured it out. Costco figured it out. A whole lot of other companies have figured it out. But it's the companies that are complaining are the companies that are not paying people. And that's the reason why you have that strike in San Francisco going on. If you simply pay people something, you pay people a wage that they can live off of. And I'm not saying live rich, but live off enough to where financials aren't a strain. Because in this day and age, everything's going up by your paycheck, but companies are still expecting you to break your back like it's the 1950s. But I digress. We're right along, guys. I did want to cover this next story because it amazes me how the level of, aside from Hurricane Ian getting all the news, let's not forget, Mississippi's still in the spotlight for multiple things. Number one, the water situation in which Jackson residents are preparing to sue the state, as they should. Let's not also forget that that one of their heads of human services was literally being arrested on funneling money. And now Mississippi's own son, who's also in hot water, well, basically a multi-million-dollar famous-ish quarterback, again, with the state, decided to use welfare funds to build a volleyball facility for his daughter, who plays volleyball at the same school. There's more to that story now.
Welcome back. NFL Hall of Famer Brett Favre is facing new questions about his possible connection to an alleged $77 million welfare fraud scheme. Those new questions are also bringing new fallout. ABC News' Steve Osunsami has the latest.
Favre puts it up.
Brett Favre is considered one of the best NFL quarterbacks of all time, and the fallout over the growing welfare scandal in Mississippi has moved SiriusXM to put his weekly radio show on hold. State investigators allege that a group of some of Mississippi's most influential people spent more than $77 million that should have gone to poor families on pet projects like this volleyball arena at the university where the Hall of Famer played college football and where his daughter played volleyball.
We've seen a ton of welfare money that's intended for the poorest folks here in the state of Mississippi flowing to people who just simply did not need it.
In text messages shared in court filings, there are conversations in 2017 before the volleyball center opened where the former quarterback is asking former Governor Phil Bryant for money to build it. And then more text messages 2 years later, this time asking the former governor to help pay for an indoor football practice facility at the same school that was never built, writing that it would give USM's football program instant credibility and USM football will become relevant again. The governor wrote back that use of these funds is tightly controlled. Any improper use could result in violation of federal law. According to court filings, Favre didn't give up, writing the former governor again about the new volleyball center a few months later, saying, "We obviously need your help big time, and time is working against us." The former governor responded, "But we have to follow the law. I am too old for federal prison."
The DOJ is definitely closing in on others involved in this misappropriation scheme.
Favre's attorney says the football legend never knew where the money he was asking for was coming from, saying he only has good intentions with every charitable endeavor he has organized. The former governor has also not been charged or accused of any wrongdoing in this case. And to underline this, Diane, this is about money meant for the poorest people in the poorest state. Diane?
All right, Steve Osunsami, thanks for that. And ABC News legal contributor and host of the Law and Crime Network, Brian Buckmeyer, joins me now for more on this. Brian, what do you make of these text messages with former Governor Phil Bryant? He's denying any involvement.
Yeah, the text messages really tie Brett Favre to this whole scheme because we've already seen two individuals be convicted of crimes in regard to this, that being Nancy New as well as John Davis. And so when you see these text messages between them saying, hey, if the media finds out about this money, will they find out where it came from? Or even these reassurances that he was given. It seems like Brett Favre knew a lot more about where this money was coming from and that it wasn't meant for what he was trying to do.
And you mentioned Nancy New, who's charged in connection with this scandal. She is now cooperating with prosecutors as part of a plea deal. So how might prosecutors be utilizing her during this investigation?
So the text messages that we're all talking about and that you showed on the screen just a few moments ago, that really leads to a foundational argument to say, hey, there's got to be more here. What happened in the phone calls? What happened in the in-person meetings? And Nancy New, along with John Davis, who was the head of the Mississippi Department of Human Services, who just got 32 years in jail last year, those two who've already said they're going to cooperate with this investigation, they're going to be giving a lot more information than just these text messages. And maybe we will see Phil Bryant, who is the former governor, face charges, or Brett Favre and others who receive these funds face charges as well. But it's really going to come down to those communications and the information they give the DOJ.
Now, John Davis, the man in charge of Mississippi's welfare agency during the time of this scandal, he has agreed to plead guilty to fraud charges, and he could serve a maximum of 15 years in prison. So what could this mean for Brett Favre?
Yeah. It's bad because there's a strong connection between people who have already pled guilty and are going to serve serious jail time and Brett Favre. Now, his attorney has come out and said, hey, when you look at that message and he's asking about whether or not the media is going to find out that he borrowed this money, that's a philanthropic individual saying, I don't want people to know my name is out there. I don't want them to know that I got this money. But everyone else is looking at it and saying, this looks very incriminating. What else does John Davis and Nancy New know that can't be shown in text messages? And that's going to be very detrimental to Brett Favre if it's negative.
Brian Buckmeyer, we appreciate your analysis as always. Thank you.
So yeah, I'm asking this question. How is it that the former governor knew, well, we can't use that. I'm too old to go to federal prison. Yet this was built. And yet Brett Favre, well, I didn't know where the money was coming from. Well, it didn't come out the sky. It amazed me so how, it's amazing how the level of accountability just seems to fade away. That somehow his daughter's school got the facility they asked for, and yet the money that was intended to help out the poorest people in the poorest state in the United States, somehow that money disappeared. Yes, there should be accountability. Yes, there should be an investigation. Yes, all of those that are involved need to be held accountable and on charges, Brett Favre included, because it is amazing to me that, the former governor has yet to be charged. Well, if it happened under his watch, yes, he should be brought in an investigation. If Brett Favre is involved, yes, he should be brought in an investigation. But the fact of the matter is that as it stands, neither one of them are in custody or questioned or anything of that nature. How does that not sound fishy? How? I mean, again, we just literally covered a story last week about the Department Head of Human Services that literally just got caught with 13 felonies of basically funneling money. He was funneling money to other projects. And this was the Department Head of Human Services. Mississippi is corrupt as it gets. The poorest state, and again, I keep pointing this out, check the poorest states, Mississippi, Kentucky, Missouri, check them all. You will find one thing in common, that the entire legislation is corrupted and rotted, and that so much money that goes to these states are never seen by those who truly need it, because you have those in front of them in higher positions who will put that money elsewhere. And unless that becomes a story for everybody to know, nobody knows. But if you ask Brett Favre, well, I don't know where the money came from. Yeah, you did, because you went straight to the governor. You went straight to the governor and said, hey, they need a practice facility. Hey, USCM needs an indoor practice field. You knew where to go to, Brett Favre, because instead of spending your own multi-million dollars in money, you decided that you can go to the state because it's a lot easier because, well, they've had practice. Tell me I'm wrong. Moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this next story as well because this seems to be, I like to call this a drop in the bucket. What I mean by that is, guys, is that the Congressional Budget Office had taken a look at Biden's student loan cancellation plan, and they said that it would cost an estimated $400 billion. Keep in mind, this is the plan that Biden had put in to say that he would forgive $10,000 to $20,000 of student debt, depending on whether or not you have Pell Grants. And they sat there and said from the CBO that $400 billion, this would cost the government $400 billion. And my response to that is, that's it? $400 billion. Now, a lot of people going, well, that's $400 billion coming from us. I said to a certain extent. But $400 billion, think about that. We literally, for it to be an actual number that should concern us, look at the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and how much we racked up there. Those are in the trillions and climbing. Look at almost every war America has been in. And then look at the number versus student loan cancellation plan that the CBO is pointing out. 400 billion? 400 billion seems small in the shadows of trillions. Because that's where we are. I mean, currently, as it stands, the total student loan debt is $1.7 trillion and counting. Biden's cancellation, if we really put that into math comparison, 400 billion versus $1.75 trillion, barely a blip on the radar screen. And I keep pointing this out. Biden could have done the one thing that could have guaranteed the Democrats would have had more. They would have had total control of Congress. They would have if he had done that. If he had totally forgiven student loan debt, which, by the way, is trying to be held up due to a lawsuit coming out of Indiana. But we'll get more on that story as it develops. But the fact of the matter is, had he did student loan debt forgiveness for everyone, landslide. Had he decriminalized marijuana or said that he wants to decriminalize marijuana, landslide. He wants to expunge marijuana records from those who had caught with low-level offenses. Again, landslide. But it is amazing to me how many people are still hung up on student loan debt that really don't need to be hung up. Because, again, $400 billion, if $400 billion leads to a lot of people getting some relief, I am all for it. But still, if you really think about the grand scheme of things, if we can get by $400 billion and we can get by having 2 wars on a credit card, we can forgive student loan debt. That's just me. But that simple fact of the matter, guys, I do want to move forward because I am glad, and this is just a quick shot for a second, the Justice Department is stepping in with Jackson residents, saying that they are looking into legal action against the state, as they should, because this is not just a problem that happened because of flooding issues. As we did speak about this, guys, with Mississippi and Jackson, because Jackson, Mississippi is a 80% plus black populated city, that they've always had water issues. So did Flint, Michigan. And yet we're still speaking about the same state who cannot allocate funds properly. Why are we surprised that the infrastructure, as far as water, bridges, roads, was never taken care of? And I hope the Justice Department does more. I hope they do more than the legal action that they are claiming. I need them to go further. I need to be held accountable, because if you really think about Flint, Michigan, only one person was held accountable. One. That's it. One. And you got to think, Flint, Michigan is in the same way. Flint, Michigan is in the same way as Jackson, Mississippi is. That, yes. Now, granted, we did show an article last week that some residents are doing a lawsuit, but honestly, the city of Jackson, all those residents need to get in a class action lawsuit against the state, because no telling the ramifications behind that drinking water, behind that water they use for bathing and cooking and things of that nature. There's no ton of level of ramifications that happen from people either consuming that water or coming in contact with it. So yes, I'm looking forward to seeing what the Department of Justice does with that. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this story as well, because, again, another officer at another school is basically on administrative leave, basically because of this. Yeah. So that officer that you saw right there, guys, who decided to WWE the guy WWE kid into the actual school lunch tray right there. Well, that guy is now on administrative leave as they look into the issue because, as you can tell, the officers were breaking up a fight that occurred, and the officer decided to slam the child into a lunch cart. Now, a lot of people saying, "Well, damn, you new high schoolers, they're pretty big and they're not kids." Yeah, but an officer is supposed to show restraint. First and foremost, we've seen too many times where an officer or school resource officer decides to body slam a child or or knock out a child or choke a child out or put his knee in the back of his or put their knee in the back of their necks, or in this case, decide to throw a child back first into a steel lunch tray. Because again, we don't know what could have happened. But we'll follow that story as it comes along. But that officer is definitely now on administrative leave, and we will follow that story as it develops. But it's hard to actually get past the fact of why did officer decide to do that. That's why I never understood that about law enforcement. It's amazing to me. The first thing I always understand is brute force. Now I understand. Look, somebody swings on you, open season, cool, but you're a school resource officer. You're dealing with children. There's got to be easier ways to do it without actually having to WWE them into something heavy that could cause permanent damage. But as I said, we'll follow that up. Moving right along, guys. You love to fly? I don't. I hate flying. I try to avoid flying every chance I get. That being said, however, the Biden administration is trying to reduce the airline fees. And of course, airline companies hate it.
Scramble to get those holiday plane tickets is on, followed by the ticket shock. Compared to last year, average domestic fares are up 43% for Thanksgiving and up 39% for Christmas. Those high prices include extras like checking a bag and change fees. The federal government proposing new rules to ensure airlines and travel sites are transparent about extra costs up front as soon as a price is listed. Customers would no longer have to search for fees tied to things like checking bags, canceling or changing flights, and guaranteeing seats with family. The White House says the new rules would force airlines to be more competitive, driving down prices.
Are these new rule changes necessary?
No, they are not necessary. All the information that this proposed rule is about is currently available on our websites.
Nick Callio is the president of Airlines for America, a trade association.
And we don't need really the government to tell us to do it. Our carriers are so fiercely competitive, it's unbelievable.
The transportation secretary responding.
I think right now we still have too many situations where passengers, you think you're getting a low fare, you think you're getting a great deal, but it wasn't obvious what the fees were.
The announcement comes after a summer of discontent, tens of thousands of cancellations and delays. Staffing shortages forced airlines to cut down the number of flights, contributing to an increase in ticket prices. Air travelers are frustrated. The federal government hoping some new rules might make things better.
It's a way to say to the public, we hear your complaints and we agree with you. We want you to know everything that's involved and the true cost of flying.
The proposed rule is now going to a 60-day comment period. So those people hoping to see them for this holiday season will have to wait a little bit longer. Just remember all of that extra stuff, things like seats and bags and changes down the line, all of it can add up. Savannah.
And that was the one thing I've never understood. Now, keep in mind, as I said before, I don't like flying. I actually hate flying. I still believe in the fact that we should actually have a high-speed rail system in the U.S. to actually compete with airlines. Just because, you know, if Japan has figured out that they can put a bullet train on their country, as long and of course you can see high-speed rails in the UK, we should be able to do this in the U.S. But you know, I digress. But I always wondered about this flying, check bag fees. Check bag fees. If I say it 5 times, I'll get it. I never understood that. Or overweight bags, or cancellation fees, or stay fees, or things of that nature. Again, it's almost like, if you really want to be honest, it's looking like insurance when they throw all the stuff in there that you have to pay extra for, and when all you wanted was a flat fee. And yes, there needs to be transparency. But you know who hates this though? Airline companies hate it, because that forces them to be accountable. Imagine you getting away with it because, well, you're the only option. It's the only option in American Airlines and Delta and Southwest and Frontier and Spirit, which God help me, from the Spirit horror stories that I be hearing for people flying Spirit, that's probably the cheapest airfare you're going to find anywhere. But Spirit is, like, from what I've been told, is the backwoods of the skies. Go at your own risk. But again, it's that whole thing of transparency. It's like, yes, you want to know that, hey, are you going to get a check bag fee or a late fee, or, y'all trying to group certain seats together. The only thing I used to remember when I had to fly was the only thing I understood. If you want to pay up, if you want first class, you won't pay that toll, because first class is awesome, from what I've been told. But that's it. Everything else, coach and back, you understood that you're going to be in a tiny sardine can, compacted to enough seats, because these airline companies want to make their profits. But these fees should be transparent. And for some odd reason, you like to think for airline companies trying to get as much business humanly possible, considering the fact of short staffing, less flights, and increased ticket prices, you think they'd have no problem being honest about the prices. It's almost as if they're, trying to get over on people. Just saying. But last story I got, guys, again, is a developing one, just because there's no way to get around this when it comes to law enforcement. An Arizona man was shot and killed by officers who say he threw rocks at their car. Yes, he threw rocks at their car, and the officers shot and killed him. That man pictured there was killed around 6:45 a.m. this Saturday, last Saturday in Phoenix, basically because the officer said that their cars were struck by unknown items causing damage. When they went to go investigate, they saw said man right there throwing rocks at the patrol car. Police told him to stop. He refused, and that's when the officers involved decided to shoot. Of course, the man right there was pronounced dead at the hospital. They are looking into that issue, and those officers are now on administrative leave. But at the same time, guys, I have to ask this question. Were the officers in danger? Everybody's like, well, he was throwing rocks. Yes, but did he throw boulders? I'm sorry, did he throw rocks with sharp edges? Or did he throw the same rocks that a 2-year-old or 4-year-old would find on the ground and throw them? Even more so, if he threw rocks, what kind of, and I hate to be nitpicky about this, but what kind of danger are officers in if one person's throwing rocks and you got a gun? You've also got taser. You've also got mace. You also outnumber this man. It's almost as if law enforcement has always been taught to kill and kill first, which I wouldn't be surprised about, considering some of these seminars that are going around for law enforcement that do teach them, hey, comes down to the situation, the law's already on your side. And that was the creepiest thing I ever heard at a police seminar. When I was watching a police seminar, that the person teaching the class was said, first and foremost, as a law enforcement officer, you have to understand the law's on your side already. You pretty much have believability. You have accountability. It's their job to prove it. It's their job to prove their innocence. And I'm just sitting there shocked, because this is being taught to cops, but I shouldn't be shocked, because you train longer. You literally certify and train and study longer to be a contractor, a plumber, a stylist, anesthesiologist, a nail technician. Go down the list. You train longer in any of these professions out here than you do in law enforcement. Because I know in Nashville, and I'm yet to be wrong about this, you realize in Nashville, Tennessee, especially in the South, for most states, you only have to go into police academy for less than half a year. Probably less than that if they need you bad enough. So 6 months. 6 months for you to protect and serve, and you get individuals out there that'll make you nervous about, just throwing rocks. Imagine if he wasn't throwing rocks, because we got situations like that too. But that's just my gripe with law enforcement, because yes, law enforcement can be reformed for the better, but first and foremost, they need to be trained, demilitarized, have higher standards, at the same time, mandatory physical evaluations and mental evaluations at that. Because trust me, if we had mental evaluations with a lot of law enforcement out there, someone wouldn't have jobs, and that would be a good thing. But Moving right along, guys, we're going to get into our feel-good segment because usually how the fact we got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom and sometimes make you lose faith in humanity. But hey, it's midday. It's midday. Yes, it is. It's the midday of the week. That was a terrible segue. It is hump day. And of course, like I said, we want to leave you guys out some good vibrations, and hopefully the story will do just that. Because who knew that hip-hop would finally get to the armed forces, specifically Army? Yes, because, well, just watch.
The United States Army Field Band is no stranger to the world stage. The Field Band has been playing concerts and connecting the public to the Army for more than 75 years, honoring soldiers and veterans through music. The notable Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy has never sounded like this. Rappers Nicholas Feemster and Lamar Riddick just over a year ago answered a job posting by the Army Field Band looking to add hip-hop artists to its ranks.
How does it feel to be the first?
To be here and to be able to be a part of such a great organization that was forward-thinking enough to even bring on rappers it's a great blessing.
I think people get caught up in the first and lose the quality. So we want to be focused on making sure we're doing a good job with that title.
You can talk about a multitude of different things with hip-hop music.
After months of basic training, Feemster and Riddick are now full-time members of the Army and its field band, making their debut in front of a world audience in Scotland at the Edinburgh Military Tattoo last month.
When we hit that walkway, me and him kind of just gave each other like a little dap, right? And we're just like, it's showtime.
That's stuff that I prayed for when I was younger, so I was glad to be there.
The Army striking a new chord with these trailblazers leading the way.
Sometimes things just take time, but it's here now, and we're here to stay.
Aaron Gilchrist, NBC News, Fort Meade, Maryland.
And again, I just thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool because number one, who knew hip-hop would finally make it to the main stage? And I'm just like, wow. All I can say is wow. I just thought that was pretty cool. As long as it's not mumble rap, because mumble rap, disgrace. That being said, guys, that's gonna do it for this podcast. Thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate it. To get out of here, guys, before we get out of here, we got to do some shameless plugging as always. Shout out to my friend at Avon Westfield on Facebook, Big Busy on socials. Definitely check him out, especially on TikTok, as he usually has as well as Big Busy Thinking, as well as new beats along the way. Of course, it's me, guys, Black Fox 447 on all socials. You can definitely follow me almost everywhere. As I usually post everything that I review or play, and also do some gym stuff because sometimes I do a couple push-ups. At the same time, guys, I have to say this: we have got to start being nicer, kinder, decent. I'm not asking you to be goody two-shoes, but just decent, kind, especially brothers. Feel free to say hi to me. I'll say hi back to you. Again, and also check up on your people. Check up on everybody. We are all battling things that nobody honestly knows about. And by checking on each other and making sure everything's all right, you may do better than just letting them know that you're thinking about them. You may save life. You may save life. You may save someone's life in the process. Just saying. Besides, it takes zero energy to be nice. It takes 100% energy to be a dick. So simply don't be a dick. Also at the bottom, guys, as you see the ticker right there, make that just a little bit bigger. If you copy and paste that into your browser, take the link tree. That's the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Frank got here, get bit, of course, on this podcast. Definitely like, share, and let people know about them as I try to get these things to grow even more. Before we get out of here, guys, like I said before, if you are in the Hurricane Ian's path, please, oh please, take safety precautions. If you haven't evacuated, please hunker down. Please be safe. Please have enough water, food, batteries, things to keep yourself safe during the storm. And of course, if you are traveling to evacuate, please travel and stay safe, guys. Because trust me, as I said before, Mother Nature is freaking undefeated. Just pointing that out. Also, if you're going to be going to a place with a lot of high traffic areas, especially with traveling, as we are now gearing up to head to that Halloween/Mariah Carey season. If you're going to be in areas, please wear a mask. Please protect yourself, because if you are sick, please stay home. We are still in a pandemic area. We still have coronaviruses that's many Decepticons. So please, oh please, take care of yourselves, and now help us take care of each other. The absolute last thing that I have to say about how the fact we got here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information and allowing you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do a lot better as a society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, electing our first woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first black 4-star military general into the armed forces. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up but our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will all get through this. Peace.